Hello. This is sort of a video series that I'm going to start up, mostly to try and help myself improve. There are a lot of deck lists out there, but the problem is that sort of, for example, this is Crueltex deck, like straight. This is just I just pretty much just took it straight from him and then just imported it in. This is exactly what he runs in Champion, and I've only been playing for 100 hours or so. Yeah, 140 hours. But I went through bronze and silver really quickly. But I've hit gold. I'm starting to slow down, and I'm struggling with the deck. And so instead of because the problem with a deck list is it's like a snapshot. But the meta changes, things change, people try different decks. So it might be good at one point, and then it's not so great. This is I'm gonna record sort of, I suppose you could say, a log just of this deck and how it evolves. Um, this is sort of what it's become now. I'll talk about it more. Like the whole point of this first video is just I'm going to talk about sort of like how I've ended up with this deck from Crueltex and what I think, cards that I'm thinking about cutting, cards that I really think are fantastic and I don't intend to ever cut. Why yellow green? I When you start the game, sort of you'll end up with a couple of mythics, and you'll get random mythics along the way. And I mean, I don't know how, but I've got 3 blue mythics, but I mean, this is a bit, and the same, because I started with quite a few yellows and greens and just barely anything else. I went yellow green, and then Crueltech, who was ranked number 1 at the time, plays yellow green. So all I did was go, right, well, it must be Destiny then, right? So I just focused all of my resources on trying to create one good deck instead of wasting time just with a whole bunch like half-baked ideas. That way as well, I just find it easier to go, right, well, this is a deck which must work because someone in Champion is playing it at a high level. So if I'm losing with it, I know it's because of me and it's because I'm still playing the game and I'm making mistakes. And I think that's the easiest way to learn, is just to have a strong deck and then play it and slowly try and work out why it's not working for you or the things that are working for you. And that's basically going to be this deck. Cruel TK, obviously wordplay, Cruel Tech, TK. So I'll just start by talking about right. So of course, Turn of Seasons is basically yellow-green control, which is considered one of the stronger archetypes, but it's very slow. It takes ages to get through matches. It takes me a really, really long time to grind. So most of this I've kept, unsurprisingly. I'll talk about it when I get to where the deck is now and why I've cut cards that I have cut. We'll go through here. Enchant Eater, I played it for the first 20, 30 games. I just wasn't using it that much. It didn't seem to be like a real game changer. 4 is quite a lot for something. It would be great to destroy an enchantment, but the only way to, as soon as I put it down on the field, it gets removed. And it's not that difficult to remove. I mean, just Led Astray takes it out. Anything, just, it gets destroyed in so many ways. I mean, it's susceptible to Gigantomachia, and it's susceptible. I mean, it's essentially susceptible to Dark Passenger, Gigantomachia, obviously, Armageddon Angel, and Misanthropia makes it a -1 attack, which means it has no attack. That's it. Like, it can get removed extremely, extremely easily. All it has to do is 3 damage to it, Misanthropia, and it's gone as well. And any sort of big, like Ikuterso as well. Like, this is pointless. Someone puts down Ikuterso. I mean, these are all sort of like high mana answers, but the problem is that it answers it and then it's still there. And Enchant Eater has just done nothing. 4 mana is a bit too much. So the only way it would be super effective, and sort of the situations I think you want it the most in, are stuff like Red Orange, Heaven and Heaven and Hades, where they're putting it down and they start just the nightmare, constant generation of tokens, and it's just the engine and it just keeps going. Really, you want to slam it down, and then you have to volition it, because I mean the stuff that's in Heaven, like a lot of these Heaven and Hades decks, Trapezist, Abaddon, it's just things that are definitely going to like get in there and immediately try and can just like rush onto the battlefield and immediately take this out. Like Heaven and Hades doesn't struggle that much with getting a lot of minions on the board with stuff like Eager Cadet, or and it doesn't have problems with removing your stuff. Like that's the whole point. Is it's just a constant token generation, constant just upgrade, just an engine that keeps going. So the only way to really get Enchanted to be effective is to use Volition, but I don't think 2 Volition is enough if you're going to do that. So I couldn't keep it in because it wasn't useful in a lot of matchups. And the times that I was like, right, well, I could get a lot of value here. I never really got a lot of value out of it. Enchant Eater plus Volition, that's 6 mana, 2 yellow gems. And you're not really removing a creature or anything. You're removing the enchantment. Sometimes it might be a big deal, but not enough. Like, not enough. And you've only got 2 Volitions. That's already preferable. Like, there are so many Volition targets that I just couldn't, like, I either go up to 3 Volition, but I couldn't find what to cut to get up to 3 Volition. Volition itself, like, there are other things, like, you get to 2, and trying to account for a 3rd Volition, I couldn't find it. I just could not find it. Scourge of Serpents, I sort of like, I'm thinking about putting it back. I've taken it out, but I'm thinking about putting it back in mine. I should probably just talk about this when I go to my deck, and then I'll show what's different, really. I'll just scroll through this right now. But of course, I might forget cards, because I'll see them here and go, oh yeah, well, I don't have that in the deck anymore. So just while I see it, I can more easily, point out that it's something I'm not running. Yeah, this is like, this was sort of something I'm seriously considering putting back in the deck, but it's just not good enough. Like, it's no good against Angel Loop. It's really not that great against Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell wants you to put cheap crap like this down a lot of the time, because they'd love to throw a rush minion on Heaven, have it die, come back buffed with Agile, and then put it on Hades. Just like, so if they've already got Heaven and Hades down, Scourge of Serpents doesn't do anything. If they've got a lot of minions down, Scourge of Serpents might buy you a time, but there's never a time that I have Scourge of Serpents. I'm not wishing I had Misanthropia, and the problem I've got right now is I'm considering putting it in, but I can't wait for sort of expansions, because this is having a bunch of 2/2s on the field. That Alpha Strike doesn't make a massive deal. You might weaken your opponent a bit, but it's at its most useful maybe against Valkyrie and Rush decks are just going to come at you straight away, because so far with Valkyrie, if I don't have Misanthropia, I lose, because it's just way too fast. Valkyrie decks are just way too fast. But obviously you can only have 2 in the deck, and there's 40 cards, so a lot of time you're not going to have it. Scourge of Serpents sort of helps out with that. I'd like, in an ideal world, I mean, Wonder Drug's amazing, but it's not great in Valkyrie, because suddenly, that the Valkyries come down, then the Horn comes out, everyone's got 2 attacks, and it's just, they're not going to have you below 8 life before finishing you most of the time. It's just going to be a turn that just hits the switch, and there is this massive amount of burst damage. And the 4 life does it, like, sometimes maybe you can just about get around it if you can just keep trying to throw like rubbish in their way. But this deck is more designed to slow, like, Maze of Ayatiku is slowing people down, but it's not slowing down that turn 6 Horn, because they're just going to put the Valkyries out. Like, it's not going to help you on that turn. So Wonder Drug isn't actually that great in the Valkyrie matchup. It's amazing in other matchups, but I'm just trying to like describe this to myself in such a way that I can internalize it later. I imagine I'm not explaining this very well. I don't know why I decided to do this. 12 hours at work and then do this. But I mean, I've got a few days off, and I'm hoping this is like the start, and then I can start playing games, record them, and this will become like an ongoing, just like the log of the evolution of this deck and just how it changes throughout time and why I think things are working. And then I can have certain matches, and then if I don't think I played well, or if I'm not sure about something, I can always just watch it back, hear myself talking about it, and the reason that I made the decisions I made. I think it might really be helpful for me as well. So, um, Tangle Skin, I've taken out. Oh, it's just not. It offers a lot, but at 7, it's not doing anything amazing that I'm not already getting. So I didn't keep Tangle Skin either. Sometimes, you can throw it down and then you've got, you can suddenly put Deadly underneath a Born Again, and that side of the field just becomes a nightmare for your opponent. It's like two glasses. If you can get the Tangle Skin down and then start, um, but that's sort of like a win more thing almost. Like if yellow green controls reach the point where you can put your Tangle Skin down, and then you put down the two Goliath's webs, you're already in an extremely strong position. I'm not like 7 mana 7/7 compared to even the twins way better. I think Sapo way better. Iku way better. Chalk way better. Traitorous Murmur is effectively, they're a beast. Basically, whatever big beast your opponent has got, and it's almost definitely either going to be way better than Tangle Skin, or it's going to be a critical Murmur that you absolutely needed to do. So Tangle Skin definitely felt like the weakest card at the top end, and it didn't that wasn't how I was winning. I never seem to win through Tangle Skin. It doesn't have Overrun. Deadly is nice, but 7/7 doesn't normally need Deadly, you know. So it didn't make that much of a difference. Raid the Tombs. I'm trying to get it just right between Revelation of Shimek, Raid the Tombs, just card drawing this deck. I took them out and went to just 2 Shimek because of what I've seen on Discord. But that was never enough. It seems like it should be plenty. Maze of Ayatiku, Effigies. There's tons of card draw. Obviously, Wonder Drug as well. There's tons of card draw, yet, you take the Raid the Tombs out, suddenly your hand really starts to struggle. And I was just going back, Shimek is too expensive at 5. You don't really want to be relying on 5 cost, because if your opponent's got you screwed and you're running out of cards, you haven't got time to put this down. You use this and it's done. The match is over. You can't do that. That's no good. Also, it means that technically, Bella, if she uses her ability, just cuts the cost in half down to 1. Super, sort of strangely relevant, but very useful. Boneyard Abomination is one of the win conditions, of course. I don't want to say, yeah, a pretty standard win condition for yellow green. Just a long game, things are drawn out. Misanthropia keeps resetting the board. Your opponents keeps trying to just finish you off. Wonder Drugs are coming in. By many fools, you just put in all tons, loads of stuff all over the place. You keep drawing cards. You just keep putting down obstacles until you start getting your really big stuff out, and the amount of value you're getting out of the top end is something that most decks can't keep up with. But the whole point is it's a massive war of attrition, and stuff is going into the Boneyard constantly, ideally. And then, Boneyard comes down at the end, and, there's 10, 15, 20 minions in the Boneyard. Volition, that's it, down. And that's only 6 mana, and that's the finisher, so it's super cheap, super easy. So it's sort of in a yellow-green deck. It's hard to take this out, really. I think I've pointed out all the cards that I've taken out, and now we'll go through the deck again, and I'll just sort of show and discuss the cards that I've decided to change for the ones in Krultek's deck that just weren't working for me, or I'm just not sure about. This is a constant work in progress. Like things are not, like some things are working, some things are not working. So I'm just constantly trying to tinker with it. I don't like having 4 mazes, so I'm sort of considering flattening just a little bit. Although, of course, like you could effectively say nothing's changed here from the Krultek deck, but it's a very sort of useful bottom package for yellow-green control. It seems to buy time sometimes. Well, no, actually, you know what? I'll discuss the ways that I seem to be losing most often afterwards, and the ways that I seem to be winning most often as well, of course. But yeah, 2 Volition. Because I've only got 2. I don't have the Enchant Eater in. There are just too few games where I was like, wow, that Enchant Eater won me the game. Like Enchant Eater plus Volition's a 6 mana play. I'm still annoyed about that. Well, not annoyed, but it's frustrating. Krultek is one of the best players in the game. There must be reasons that he's in there, and I don't know if it's because of the meta that he was playing in, and the meta's changed. He was playing yellow. He still plays yellow green. Now he's playing a lot of mono red. He still plays a lot of yellow green. But I think with the purple patch, I know for a fact there are things he doesn't like. He absolutely hates Turn of Seasons, Meso Libre. Because, of course, in winter, Meso Libre, all it takes is a Rider in Shadow to destroy Meso Libre. And, Rider in Shadow costs 1 mana. Winter is a real issue with this deck. But at the same time, I think one of the... you have things that you sort of like geek out a little bit at. One of the things that I geek out a little bit at is just summer, heal all your minions for 1. Putting down a maze of Ayatiku on 2, 1 or 2 really, and then having someone trapezist, irrelevant. Turn of Seasons makes that just completely irrelevant, because of course trapezist does 2 damage. You get 1 point back from summer. Maze of Ayatiku gets 1 health each turn. And if your opponent doesn't deal with them, of course, they can keep drawing for you. But I've actually been wondering if it's wrong to put them on the end against aggro decks. If there's space, you need to cover 3 lanes with it and just try and soak up. You're not going to be able to destroy any monsters, but just try and hold it back. The longer you can hold back for, the better. And we're struggling with aggro decks because this deck is slow. You can it'd be easier if they were all combined. But our lower ends is all about obstacles and ramp. So, we've got Bay Many Fools just to try and keep our health up. Card draw. Volition isn't really early game. Meso Libre just to try and keep stunning things. Make life as awkward as possible. Although in this meta right now, this purple patch in some ways it's really irritating. I think it's one of the deck types we're struggling. Anyway, I haven't even talked about the cards that I've added to the deck yet. I don't know why Krultek doesn't have this in. Some matches it doesn't seem to make a massive difference, but other matches there are just so many ways in which it's useful. It makes a complete joke out of Master of Shadows, like a 1/1 Immortal Deadly. It's just okay, it's suppressed. Now it's just a 1/1 piece of rubbish. Also, it's a reasonably legitimate play. Born Again turn 2 sometimes. Then, of course, Turn of Seasons takes it to. Hold on, I haven't explained that very well, have I? I should have said Meso Libre, and then Meso Libre, because it's 3 mana, ends up the wrong half of the seasons, which is why it keeps getting caught by Rider in Shadow. But also a lot of the time, you put down Meso Libre, they'll put down, you know, a 2/2, something like that. In winter, you attack into it, and you know, Meso Libre, same thing. Like anything with 2 attack, suddenly trades up into Meso Libre. Orbital Jamming Satellite, the turn afterwards, actually takes Fragile 1 away from Meso Libre. Then you destroy whatever's next to him. So he's managed to stun something for 1 turn, which is relevant throughout the game, which is why there are 4. I really don't like having 4 of things in this deck, but perhaps this is one of the most legitimate. But yeah, orbital jamming though. There are so many different, like it takes Fragile away from Meso Libre. It turns. There are a million situations. I think this is one of the most useful and sort of most versatile mythics in the game. You know, even as far as stuff like Abomination, where it's just, well, okay, you suppress an Abomination, it dies instantly. You know, something has overrun and you're just trying to buy some time, you can suppress it, put some, you know, just put a collar bot. You know, like this is, we're talking endgame here, but you know, sort of someone puts down, you know, their short stag or whatever, and you know it's got overrun. It is legitimate, you know, orbital jamming satellite, suppress it so it hasn't got overrun anymore. Green collar block. Suddenly that's like a massive deal. That's a big deal, and that's only sort of a 4-mana switch, 2 cards. Ideally, of course, you'd be ramping up the color block, but I mean, sometimes you get them in late game. It's one of the most annoying things. But it's one of like it actually makes a color block useful in late game. You know, biting blades, all the million different types of items and buffs and such. Enchantments as well, stuff you get from enchantments. It's especially useful. Oh, I really like doing this, but you know, if someone puts down a Bald Mountain and puts a minion on it, just suppress the minion because Bald Mountain gives them ability. It's not that the ability is part of the actual enchantment, it gives the minion the ability. So of course suppressing the minion means it can't use Bald Mountain. So they can't get anything back. Same with just about every, it's ridiculous. It's just so useful in so many different situations, you know. Something sitting on a Carnhenge and it's only got 1 health, then you know, orbital jamming satellites, and it hasn't got the armor. I'm talking about Ruston's Bite, aren't I? Yeah, Ruston's Bite gives it armor 1. Suddenly you throw your collar block into it after jamming it. It hasn't got the armor, and you just take it out really easily. Some things get buffed, and the buffs are the only thing keeping them alive. So jamming satellite can just kill something straight away because it's just been given +2/+2 or whatever. Revelation of Shemek. I keep I said previously, I keep wrestling with this. It's so expensive, but running like in with all the card draw, you always seem to need more of it, and the large point behind color box in the first place is that you have plenty of mana and you can just keep working and working and working, and eventually your opponent just runs out. Like you're just just grinding them basically. So of course, you know, as you can see, took out skin, just wasn't working for me. Wake the Bones. I changed for a while. I was using can't find it. Shroud, but Shroud wasn't actually like it was a bit weird. It seems, looking at it, it seems so much better, but the ways in which I was using Shroud actually seemed to be making my end game worse somehow. You know, I'd get Shroud of the Pit out, and I'd be like, great, well, it gets an energy a turn, and right now, you know, the game's only just started. I say only just started. You know, I mean, for yellow-green, it takes a while to really start. As far as I don't really count the game as starting. If I get run out straight away and we've got no misanthropes or something, we can. It's definitely one of the weaknesses of this deck. It takes a while to start. And, you know, so I Shrouded the Pit just to try and keep value going and keep ramp going and get, you know, collar box out, get mazes, get Bella out if she keeps falling in. But it's never a big deal it's never a gate, like, it's never big minions. You know what I mean? Like, if you have the ability to get a big minion out on Shroud of the Pit, I've never been in a situation where I've been able to Shroud of the Pit something massive and turn the game around. If I've got that much energy on Shroud of the Pit, I can start doing that. It's because I'm already ahead. And if I'm already ahead with this deck, then it's, like, that should be it. There are very few decks that have a better top end than this deck does. So Shroud of the Pit just wasn't doing anything. So I went back to Cruel Text Wake the Bones because, 1 mana just to get anything back, even if it comes back ephemeral, getting Sapo twice is extremely useful. If you have it on your Bay Many and then you have to cast Misanthropia because they've gone so wide and it's the only way to control it. Rewind Hex, get your Sapo in your hand, put your Sapo down, then it dies, then Wake the Bones, get your Sapo, and then it goes, whatever, like, quite, I mean, it can get more ridiculous, of course, Sapo can die and then you can short stagger to get Sapo back, and then you put Sapo down, and then you Wake the Bones to get Sapo back. That's 4 spot removals and 4 times they've had to deal with this beast. And he is a beast. So Rewind Hex as well. Like, oh well. I mean, no, I really like the card. Some deck lists, of course, it's not so great. Some matchups, it's not so great. You can't really, but sometimes it can be game changing because someone puts down 5 Spirit Gate, which of course means they're going to put down their perfect grade on it so they can get the maximum, sort of a value minion out of the graveyard. So Rewind Hex gives you so much value for 2 mana. And even if they don't run any enchantments, or they barely run any enchantments, and it's not really that massive a deal, sometimes, Misanthropia has to happen. But you've got big fatties. They don't die straight away to Misanthropia. They last a while. And just quickly getting them onto your Bay Many or your Bald Mountain, but getting them on something and then Rewind Hexing them works, definitely. It's a shame though, because of course you essentially put it back, like you return backwards. It's really unfortunate in that respect. But if the monster you send into your hand is of such great value, it's worth it. And if the monster you send back to their hand, if they put down something big is of such great value, then. But it's hard to justify a lot. I'm considering having 2 or 3 copies because there are a lot of enchantments in the game and it's extremely relevant and it is a big deal. And if Heaven and Hades comes down, Rewind Hexing just to try and slow that down, because eventually you definitely can get over Heaven and Hades because they do start, like, there are a lot of ways of getting around Heaven and Hades in this deck. So, well, no, there are a lot of, the further the game goes on, the more answers we have to Heaven and Hades. If nothing else, you can quite literally put an Iku Turso in front of Stairway to Heaven or, Stairs to Hades, and just, like, they can't put a rush minion in. Defender in a mobile there's no way for them to do that complete. Well, it's not BS, but they can't carry out one of their strategies. They can't throw down a Wings of Abaddon and sort of crash it into something and then get it sent back and then to Hades. Just that doesn't happen. Iku standing in front of it, so incredibly annoying. Bella, sometimes she's really useful. She seems to be, for 3 mana, she's really, really useful. It's not the 3 mana. It's the 3 green gems. It can be a bit awkward to work around. Ideally, your gem count in this is 541 or 451, of course. But I mean, even if that means you've got 5 green gems, getting, if Bella's out, Wake the Bones Bella is 4 green gems, and then that means nothing big is coming. So the 3 green gems can make it so awkward. She's not really early game, but she can force your opponent to have to come up with something to expend resources on her. But in a way, it's sort of similar to the Maze of Itiku, where it's great and she's slowing stuff down and she's stunning it, but she's not dealing any damage. Maze, can draw cards, and if you need to, it can get in the way of something and just try and hold it off from attacking your face for a while. But it doesn't have any attack stat. It's not. Eventually, that minion's still going to be there, and your Maze is going to be gone, and you can only hope that you've drawn enough cards in the meantime, and you've brought enough time that everything else starts coming online. And Bella feels like that. Like it's just, she's holding things off, and it can be frustrating sometimes because sometimes you really need a mythic that's just gonna like grab the game and be a game changer. She's so rarely a game changer. She can't on her own. She can't really change the game. They put down like a massive minion. Bella can stun it, but you still you need something and Bella to finish. She's I don't know. As mythics go, you can't rate a 10 out of 10 because she just can't on her own. She can't do anything. Legistrate, I've only got one copy. I'm experimenting a bit with it. It's sort of for Jinsuk's, Bella's, so Leah's. Actually, I used it on a Cyclopean Giant as well. Actually, there are quite a few things actually that Legistray works on. It's sort of similar to Rewind Hex, where I'd like to put more in the deck, but I don't quite know where to cut. There are cards it's getting awkward, definitely awkward. I think Bald Mountain has to stay. If I was going to do this one by one, I should have just started from the top of the deck and then just gone down bit by bit, shouldn't I? Well, yeah, Bald Mountain, like one copy. I've even considered having two copies because it's that important and it's that useful having a Bald Mountain on the field. As soon as you've got a Bald Mountain on the field, your opponent can't remove it. It becomes a top priority to have minions around Bald Mountain and to just stop you from getting anything near it. Because one of the quickest ways for green-yellow to get control is Misanthropia while something is standing on Bald Mountain. 1 mana, Misanthropia comes straight back. So, I mean, effectively, if they can't really deal with anything, you've got 4 Misanthropias, and you've got 2 Traitorous Murmurs. It just gives you, it can just keep giving you a lot of value, and it draws a lot of attention. So, sometimes there's a Feng Shui, there's nothing you can do. I mean, sometimes there's going to be a Feng Shui, isn't there? Going to destroy the enchantment. Stuff like that, or someone has an Enchant Eater, of course. But if someone has, I mean, even Led Astray, there you go. Enchant Eater, 4 mana, Led Astray, and it's gone. Well, Led Astray, or of course it's on a hex, and then you send, in terms of mana, there are a lot of, well, I'm going to stop talking about Enchant Eater. There's no way of getting rid of these, is there? These are all amazing, really, really good. Iku Turso, I lost to Kish because he put in Iku Turso on top of the Serpent. All I needed was the Serpent to die, so I could put Zappo down. I could have destroyed the Iku Turso. I had 9 health left. Very frustrating. So of course he has overrun, so he just overran the Serpent, and that was the end of it. But in some situations like Heaven and Hades, Iku Turso's worth goes up, but his worth is always pretty high. Yeah. For this is my. If I had 2 of them, I would take 2. Sadly, I've only got the 1 copy. But one of the big threats of yellow green is, of course, just the ability to put down a Boneyard Abomination. As I was saying at the beginning, this is one of your big win conditions late game. Is if they haven't covered the whole board, Boneyard Abomination goes down. 15, 20 strength, Volition, 20 damage to the face. You finish a lot of games that way. Dire Benediction just sort of makes it that much more ridiculous because now it's, it's 20 damage to the face. If they've got 34 health, they've been life tapping or they've just been going up. 20 damage, die Benediction, another 20, so that's 40 damage. And the entire combo only costs 9. And it's like one of the most useful things is, of course, it's all in different gems. So it's not like I'm accidentally gonna realize I don't have enough gems to do it. Do I have 2 green gems? Do I have 2 yellow gems? Do I have 1 orange gem? That's in some ways that's surprisingly relevant because Grinning Collarbock ramps, but of course it doesn't give you any gems, it just gives you mana. So in terms of gem count, you only need 5 gems to do a 9 mana spell. And if you've got a Collarbock, you know, that's sort of reasonable. Like that can sort of work. Unfortunately, you know, that's just theoretically you can get out early. It's very unlikely you will get out early, especially that early, because the Boneyard won't be that full yet. You know, well, I mean, turn 6 or 7. If you had a Collarbock or 2, turn 6 or 7, there aren't going to be that many minions yet. But, you know, it just gives you the ability. I mean, even if they've got the entire board covered, it doesn't matter. You can just put down Boneyard Abomination, die Benediction, done. So, there are very few ways of sort of escaping it, I think, you know, and of course, Miss and Frapier clears the whole board. It's very hard for them to then cover the entire board. And you've got so many fatties as well that they have to try and value trade into. You can get to, like, I mean, this is what I mean. Late game, we've got big monsters that have great effects, really strong. I wish I had a second copy of this, but maybe it's not necessary. I've barely used it. It's won me a game or two, but it's more a sort of so that I'm never out of the game. You know, it's my Hail Mary pass, and then worst comes to the worst. If I have to throw down Short Stag, Dire Benediction, you know, then that's 8 damage, 10 damage, whatever. Boneyard Abomination, you know, it's just, it's so that I'm always thinking, right, well, even if they've got the entire board covered in minions, there is some way of me still dealing gigantic damage, and that can do a surprising. Of course, if they've got artifacts, and like a good Dire Benediction, you know, any sort of basic attack, not even from your big minions, but sort of if you've got a twin left and it's on its own, attacking Dire Benediction is sort of okay. Then it's just a chump block with no attack, which is unfortunate. So Leah doesn't, you know, so Leah gives minions strength, which suddenly means, you know, anything like even something like a Collarbock, if they've got artifacts, then your Collarbock suddenly becomes a 4/1 if it's on its own. Attack once, but you know, like there are definitely ways around sort of, and Dire Benediction can make a massive difference. Icky Terso overrunning something, and then Dire Benediction if someone's got a couple of artifacts up, so it leaves them with no artifacts and no items, and they've still got to deal with a big body, even if it's got no attack, which has the capability to turn something into a defender immobile. So basically, Icky Terso turns into a defender that you know that can defend the thing that's in front of it. If you know, like, that's a weird way of explaining it, but it has a couple like playing pure yellow green. I was losing pretty heavily to yellow green with a splash of orange, and it's because they get there faster. Dire Benediction means Boneyard Abomination doesn't even need to hit the life total in terms of minions in the graveyard. He only needs to hit half of it. He just needs to hit. He needs to, you know, if they've got 20 health, you only need to see 10 minions. If you've got the combo, that's it. Boneyard, 10 minions, Dire Benediction, 20 health. And so, the things, like I said, I both love this card and I absolutely don't like it. Just we're losing in 2 different ways. One is what I was just saying is things that are greedier than us, yellow green with a splash of orange, or green purple, because purple has an even denser, like, purple has some sick stuff at the top, doesn't it? You know, perfect grade, Daigoju, it's just, purple is heavier than us, and it can be a real struggle because they've got Spirited Away and stuff like that as well. So playing a Mithril or a champion player if they're playing the purple version of this deck is so tough. So decks that are greedier than us, a lot greedier than us, or because of course we have nothing early game, so if they're greedier than us, then they'll just outgreed us. Like when it gets to late game, there's just very little we can do. They will suddenly just overtake us. Very, very frustrating. But you know, that's why we're writing this. Is maybe we can identify ways that we can beat out greedier decks and be faster than them. The reason that I put the orange in, even though it's just nothing, like there's nothing in Cortex deck that's remotely like this. It's just a quick race item, if you know what I mean, just to quickly try and get through something. I've also tried going with overkill. I have been trying with like 2, 3, 4 overkills because it's basically a 1 mana cantrip, but the fact that it costs a green gem, you know, if the card that you get late game and you've really just struggled, you need to find your answer as soon as possible. Overkill suddenly means the green gem, you know, green gem's gone. So as cantrips go, I mean, they're probably not ever going to do like a 1 mana nothing cantrip, but that's the way I was seeing it. Is it's a super easy 1 mana just to try and thin out my deck. So effectively, I'm not playing with 40 cards. I'm playing with 36, and late game also, you know, it can sort of help Sapo out. So I think it's useful all the time. I just can't work out where to put it, you know. So that's greedier decks, and the other one is Valkyrie or red aggro. We're not struggling with red orange stuff like that, but Valkyrie and red aggro just go at us straight away, really fast. And you know, there's nothing here to really stop them. All at that point, if I have Misanthropia against Valkyrie, then when they hit that turn 5, that's it. Misanthropia, their board is clear, so they can't do Horn. But if I don't have Misanthropia, you know, they suddenly play the Horn, and everyone, you know, it's just I cannot work out what to do, which is why I'm considering putting Scourge of Serpents in, because with 40 cards in the deck, racing for Misanthropia every time I meet a Valkyrie or a red aggro deck, so I can clear their board once they start racing is that really the only solution? We don't have enough sort of health in this. We don't have enough health recovery in the deck to keep up with so much damage so quickly in the early game. We do the best we can with Meso Libre, and you know, but you know, like I said, I mean, the problem, like on 3 mana, Meso Libre comes down at the wrong time. It comes down when when the Trapezis is going right. Well, you know, you're fragile, so 2/2 into 3/3, and Trapezis has been doing damage this entire time before Meso Libre even came down. Maybe Meso Libre attacks Trapezist, and you might be able to get a good value trade. What's happening across the rest of the board? You know, up to 3 mana, that we're only just starting, so it's definitely a problem. You know, Born Again isn't much for defense. It's the best you can do, but you know, Kolobok, Born Again, it's all just ramp, card draw, a little bit of health, by many falls just to try and keep getting health back. So you're slowing it down as much as possible. But it always seems to revolve to some degree around Misanthropia, which is not surprising because, you know, it's such an incredible card. But there's not enough Misanthropia in the deck. That seems to be one of the biggest weaknesses. If I had more Misanthropia so I could reliably draw it at 5, Red Aggro and Valkyrie wouldn't really be a concern at all. Because, you know that, but that it sounds ridiculous saying that, but I'm articulating it because one of the biggest issues, which I'm hoping, you know, that we can sort of tune the deck towards, is keeping up with red aggro and getting some sort of pseudo Misanthropia effects that just we can just keep covering them. But apart from Scourge of Serpents, I don't know, like I like the deck as it is, but I definitely feel frustrated that I'm always on the back foot for so long. I've also experimented with Poxbringers, and I think this is actually one of the best counters to red aggro and Valkyrie, you know, because it's rush. It also works on Bald Mountain, of course, because, you know, if Bald Mountain is down, Poxbringer can just activate Bald Mountain straight away. So if there's a card you really need, if you've already used Misanthropy once and you really need it back, you can definitely just Poxbringer. But it's just hard to put it. Like having a one attack rush minion, you're not rushing anyone down, you're not doing anything massive. It's a bit of spot removal. It's like a mini Sapo, you know. You're doing the best you can with it, but it takes up it's great. I like it, but it takes up a whole card slot, and I can't work out how to, how to sort of work around it. You know, maybe less Maze of Iatikus. I keep experimenting with taking out Maze of Iatikus, but then if you start like this deck already starts slow, taking out a 1-drop, that helps you draw cards and get into what you have to, to sort of like keep your opponent at bay. Just seems like a terrible plan. It hasn't worked out for me before when I've done that. Hopefully, in the future, we can just come up with a solution. It's really frustrating. Okay, so I've sort of talked about the deck. I've sort of talked about my changes to the deck and why I've got them over Krultech. Is it like the record isn't remotely, because I went from bronze to, I think I went to gold with it. So it's 31 and 8, but that was bronze to gold, so it's not a reliable indicator really. And then this isn't either. Like this is where I was starting going, right, well, maybe I played differently from Krultech, and I'm not as good a player as Krultech, and I've got so much to learn that I'm not using these cards correctly. But they just don't feel right, or I'm struggling with them. And we're trying to experiment and come up with our own version. Hopefully there are some weaknesses to this deck, and we'll see. But yeah, this isn't reliable either. 50, like these records actually, 36 and 8, 51, 29. That is getting from the bottom to gold, and then right now we're in gold and we're still progressing. I'm gold 7, so I'm 43 and 30. We've still got a positive win rate, but we're starting to slow down. And there are games where I'm looking at the deck and I'm asking serious questions like, can this deck really take me, to the top? Or are there issues with it? And the question always, the question in the back of my mind is always, why has Krultech got certain cards and I'm not seeing the value? Because it might, he's top 3 player. So clearly I'm just not playing it properly. But, we shall see. We shall see. Hopefully this is just the beginning. And is there any point sort of going? There are considerations. I'll show my mythics and rares one last time. Make sure. Yeah, this is what I've actually got. So we're probably not. Blue may not be the solution for us. Magnus, to some degree, though, would be another Misanthropia. And if all we're thinking is, right, we need to get to 5 for this Misanthropia, because it just clears the board. But 2 damage isn't really taking out Valkyries. So that's that's not achieving it. Looking at what I've got in terms of mythics and rares, this isn't a direction I could go in right now. Cataclysm, perhaps. But I mean, I have low health, into mid game, and then my health normally picks up. I'm not normally ahead by the time Cataclysm comes out, so maybe that actually sounds terrible. And also it comes down on the 6, but the Horn comes down on the 6, and if the Valkyries have the board, that's more damage than maximum health that you start with, and 2 damage to everything, unless they're playing seasons, I could hope. Magnus doesn't seem to be the answer, does he? Helmet of Conscription is something I hadn't considered. I hadn't considered this before now, but Helmet of Conscription might be like a crazy out of nowhere solution. I mean, just giving a Maze of Ayatiku, an attack, so things can't start crashing into it and not taking any damage. Actually, that's really interesting. I could buff. Okay, Helm of Conscription. Well, at least something good has definitely come out of sort of talking my way through this. This Helm of Conscription, I should consider that, I think. Of course, Scourge of Serpents. I've been trying with Serpent's Nest as well, because you'd think, well, they're value engines. For 3 mana you get Serpent's Den, and it just keeps producing 1/1s. Maybe that would hold people off and it'd get in the way. But in practice, it doesn't really seem as great as it should be. And of course, Kish got me because I had Serpent's Dens, and it just backfired horribly for me. Harvester, it's 6/6 for 6. Even if it gives you 3 life, getting 3 life back at 6 isn't. I'm not sure. I'd consider it, though 3 gems compared to what it's competing with in the slot, of course. But yellow green can afford to have more things in the slot. But Tangle Skin is perhaps better than Harvester is in the first place, so maybe not. Red, I've been wondering about red. Oh, I have quite a bit actually. I've been wondering because in terms of just trying to hold them off, and just so I can get to my late game, red, sort of seems like the obvious, fight in early game then. If they start crashing stuff in and taking your stuff out, you start taking their stuff out. End of problem. But I don't quite have enough of it. And the stuff that my eyes are drawn to are, Oak of Dodona, which needs 2. And, Fire Song, because, it could block one thing, take it out maybe, and add an ignition. I could just try and keep the game, contained, stop them from getting too crazy. I've never tried this. I'm really curious. I'm thinking maybe I will try it, but I don't know. Don't know how. I've tried Baba Yaga's Den. It seems to work. It seems to work, but it sort of is independently good. It doesn't seem to work with the deck. But I think perhaps taking out a Maze for a Baba Yaga's Den would be a clear upgrade. 1 card draw machine for a 2/6. I mean, just in winter, not, Swift, the ability to flee heal. It does do a lot. It wasn't making a the way that I was winning wasn't changing with it in the deck, so I stopped using it. Leshy as well, I thought this might be amazing. 3 mana, and if they start throwing minions on the board, suddenly I've got 5/5s coming out, 6/6s. It's really great. Baba Yaga's Den, Leshy Green. I'm still considering, but it's really hard in a deck like this to sort of take out Meso. But both of them, I tried Night Hag and it's worse than Meso. I didn't think it would be because it solves the whole what if they crash something in winter and it's got 2 attack, because there are so many things that have 2 attack and rush. But there's stuff that has 3 attack, like Iron Belly Wyvern dies anyway, so effectively. But of course Iron Belly then becomes very relevant here because it has 3 attack, but in winter Night Hag dies. But Meso at least stuns it for a turn, which is extremely relevant. But late game, you don't want to stun something with Night Hag, because you stun their big target with Night Hag, and then they clear the Night Hag instantly. Then it's as if the big target wasn't even stunned. Like, there are just, it's happened too often. The card doesn't do enough. Like, this 2/4 isn't. It's not hanging around for a long time. It's not stunning anything big most of the time. It's just not quite there. Theoretically, it should be really good. It's rarer than Meso Libre, but somehow Meso is just doing better. Pillage. I'm considering, because of course against reanimated decks, if you pull it, but it's a mythic, so you can't guarantee you're gonna get it when you need it. Take control. It's a bit, it's, as soon as I read the card, I can see situations where it'd be amazing, it'd be so useful, but they're very specific niche situations to take up a deck slot with, and I'm not even sure if there'd be game-changing situations in the games it would be useful in, like take an enemy artifact. Maybe that's amazing. Are you going to win the game off of it? I'm not entirely sure. Like, how really useful is it? Because, your lower mana really needs to be focused on just trying to keep you alive so you get to late game. I think. Dark, orange I really want to get into. I think at least just having 2 Dire Benedictions in the deck. I think the deck can afford to have that small splash, just a little bit of orange that allows them to get around minions blocking everything. There's only Abomination can't get through. The other way, of course, was Overkill, as I said before, which I think is a nice cantrip, but I can't. A 1-mana cantrip, but it takes up the gem, was just somehow it wasn't working. There's loads in orange. Like, I'd really like to get into orange. I think Dark Passage is amazing, but it takes 2 orange gems. Perry at the Gates is absolutely amazing. I'd love to take out, Revelation of Shimek and just put it in Perry at the Gates. Draw 2 cards, and I've got a 2/2 body. That's extremely significant. But 2 orange gems, I don't see how to sort of work it around. Scion of Pride, I've had in the deck before, and then I've taken out because it's effectively 2 gems. That's the problem. Is you get the 4, but I assume Pride of, well, I didn't assume, but Pride of Place also cost the orange gem. That's the killer. If Pride of Place only cost the mana, there are quite a few sort of token generation, spell generation cards that cost mana. That orange token actually kills it, because you can't really afford to have 2 orange. You've got enough space definitely for 5/4/1 or 4/5/1, but 4/4/2 and having 2 orange isn't enough. I was also trying with taking out Volition and putting in mandatory vigor, but of course mandatory vigor is 2 orange as well, which means I'm locking a win condition behind 2 orange, and I can't do it multiple times. The whole point of mandatory vigor, what was attractive about it, was it didn't stun you like Volition does. The same to Heaven and Back and Armageddon Angel. Armageddon Angel, too many gems. To Heaven and Back, the more orange you have, the better it is, because you can get it down early, and the earlier you get it, the more value you get out of it. But by the time I have 2 orange gems, it'd already be sort of mid to late game, and then I'm not really doing a lot with it. You sort of need to build around it a little bit. And yellow-green doesn't seem to be the deck for that. We have our own recursion anyway. I mean, eventually I'd like to get a deck that has this in, but really all my mythics are in green and yellow. Most of my mythics, I should say. But you know what I mean. Like, my only real viable deck is yellow-green, because I've only been playing for a little while. Purple, what do we have to work like? We're missing a lot of the big purple, Baku is great, Jinsuk is great, Pentacle is great. but you know, 2-3 gems, can't splash it, can't do a lot with it. Peach of Light, oh, actually, you know, I've never, I mean, if you like, I don't know, maybe that's win more, in as much as, you know, you don't need to recover 20 health, you know, and go up to 40, you just need to take your opponent down to 0. So maybe Peach of Life isn't, but, you know what, Peach of Life, I'm glad I went through all of my cards. Just Peach of Life as well. When I look back at this later, Peach of Life. And some cross, but none of them are green-yellow, so I'd like to. That comes out too slow. That definitely should be able to build around it. That sounds amazing. Build around that as well, but it takes dedicated effort. Peach of Life, actually. 6 minions. So easily, you know, it happens so often, doesn't it? Is that the way that I hold on until the end game? I don't see how it beats, I don't see how it beats Valkyries. Not enough goes to the graveyard before Valkyries get out. But I mean, 2 mana, even 2 mana for, you know, 4 or 5 life. Medicine is 3 mana for 4 life, unless you're already low life. But of course, against Valkyries, it's not like they're going to take you low and then finish you. They're just going to get your board low, and then turn 6 the horn comes down, and it all happens at once. So, oh, okay. Oh, that's quite pleasing. It's cheap. It's 1 cost. Peach of Life. 2 Peach of... Oh, is that crazy? 4 color deck. 2 Peach of Lives. 2... That's crazy. No, can't be. That doesn't... Have I fixed it? 2 Peach of Lives. 2 Dire Benedictions to get around every... Okay. We'll have to look at it. I don't know. I'll have to seriously consider it anyway. Ugh. But we haven't found our Misanthropia. I was hoping we'd see something and be able to go from that. But the things that we have, Pentacle of Flavors is too expensive to be... It sounds weird because of course Misanthropia is more expensive, but we're talking about Splash here. It's not fair to expect something to be as good as Misanthropia, but it needs to have sort of that sort of effect where I can just get rid of a certain part of the board, or just keep it under control and low damage him as I ramp up into my late game. And you know, 4 mana, 2 purple, I can't reliably get that. What do I even put in? 2 Peach of Life's Pentacle of Flavors isn't that, although technically that'd be a game winner, wouldn't it? Oh, nah. I mean, if Overrun would be crazy, wouldn't it? Oh my word! Putting this on a Niku Turso, focused Slayer 4. That's absurd. That's amazing. But I mean, I don't know. It's a 4-color deck. Am I seriously thinking about a 4-color deck? I really would like to get into orange more. Maybe eventually the deck will just slowly, bit by bit, evolve. I think orange. I don't want to betray my own colours, and well, they're the only colours I have. I have to be faithful to them, right? I actually think orange is the best colour. And you know, I mean, Tempest is rocking around with this sand deck of his, so it seems pretty legit. So maybe bit by bit. I don't know. Okay, well, right. Let's talk. We've talked about the 2 reasons that the deck seems to lose the most. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. I might play games and talk over them. I probably will occasionally, just so that if there's a difficult game or there's something I'm not sure of, or I'm trying out cards, I can then hear my thought process as I play and decide if I'm playing it correctly or if we lose in a stupid way. Also, if I miss lethal, I can go back and just try and remember, so I know what the situation looks like next time. Or it's possible, of course, I'll just play games and then talk about the issues eventually as I go through ranked. We shall see. I think if we just keep playing as it is now, we will go up slowly, bit by bit. So yeah, we'll see. Apparently I've got to win a lot of matches today, so that's partially why I've decided to record it now, even though I have only gotten back from work. Because I really want to sort of like get this started. I'm quite excited about just sort of starting with this deck, and it's sort of like the start of a story. And you know, maybe I'll look back at it. It sounds stupid saying this. It sounds sort of sappy or something. I don't know. But you know, just like I'll look back at it, and you know, after I've done like 5, 10 videos or whatever, and I can see the evolution and sort of see where it started from when I was just in gold 7 and I was really struggling and I was trying to work out how to you know, just sort of like to keep it going. And you know, if I turn a corner, or you know, even if things get worse, it would be like a legacy, or you know, my own story, the deck story. Don't know if it'll be my story. It'll be the story of the deck though. This will be the deck. Cruel TK. This will be the deck. I hope it'll go well. I can't think of anything else I want to talk about. Just the cards, the issues I'm having. My wish that there was some sort of alternative Misanthropia. Scourge of Serpents, isn't it? Well, I'm not happy with it. Maybe it's just the best we have. I can see why Krultek has it in his deck. And I don't know what else to do about it. Considering how effective Wonder Drug is, maybe Peach of Life is it as well. Yeah. Maybe eventually I'll be looking back and it'll be a 4-color deck. That'd be amazing. Or maybe eventually we'll expand into orange. We'll see. I'll play games. We'll see what's working. We'll see what's not working, and then we'll just sort of go from there.